Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. It is exactly 8:31 a.m. news and views right here on Salam Media. And next we are going to be talking with specialized security expert Mike Bolhuis. We're going to be looking at a beginner's guide to scammers, and obviously not a moment too soon. I'm kind of wondering, when we talk to specialists like Mike Bolhuis, is there a special time of year when scamming is on the up? Is it normally round about end of year when people get their bonuses, double checks, etc.? Or is it, this time of year when people have spent all their money, people are broke, and the scammers kind of prey on vulnerable people to try and get hold of as much ill-earned monies that they can get their hands on? Mike Bolhuis, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Morning. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's sad that we have to talk about these type of issues, isn't it? Because I think my thinking is, and I could be totally wrong, is it's normally really older people and very vulnerable people, and maybe also people who think that they get taken in very easily. You come along and you paint a picture of something that is a sure thing in terms of investment. You put in X amount of money and you're going to get returns that you've never dreamt of before. So how do you respond to what I've unpacked in this first question regarding maybe pensioners, older people being scammed, and then young people, because out of greed or thinking I'm onto a sure thing here, I'm going to get a return that nobody else can ever offer me?
All right, Julie, thanks for the opportunity once again. The criminal of today is a clever criminal, but remember, you get many levels of criminals, but the most criminals of today make informed decisions. So if you have something, they would want it. So they are not going to bother people that has a 5 or a 10 rand on them. But if the opportunity is there, by a quick smash and grab for a handbag or a cell phone or the groceries when you leave the mall, don't underestimate that won't happen, because we sit with an extreme poverty situation which moves people to commit crimes. You must remember that. But if we talk of serious economic crimes and serious violent crimes, the criminal will target those that they have information on because of their worth. They sometimes get this information on social media, or they get it by their own surveillance, or by hacking or track and tracing. And then they know that this person has beautiful cars, most probably a lot of jewelry in the house, some cash in the house, some foreign currency. And they are obviously family members that are of value, so they can hijack or kidnap a family member, and they can drive around with you and empty your credit cards or hold you for ransom for a couple of million rand. So that is the ugly truth, the real reality of today. The bottom line is this, that opportunistic criminals are everywhere due to poverty, but crime in South Africa flourishes and escalates because crime begets crime, meaning that crime pays. The criminals deal with each other, and they see that this kind of crime works, and they can commit it and can get away with it. So that spreads like a wildfire. It's like a house robbery in a community. If there's no zero tolerance and the people don't stand against it, there will be another house robbery. It's like a hijacking in a community. If one, and I'm talking about the haves, not the have-nots. If a car's taken and nothing is done about it, the next car will be taken, and so on. I'm sure the penny drops by now. Time of the years, as we've said last year, the worst times is October, November, and December. We will see a bit of flat and and calmness in January, but crime will escalate again, in my opinion, as we've seen it yearly do by March. And then again till, say, maybe midwinter, and then it will flat again, and then it will escalate again in October, November, and December. And those who don't believe this can keep this recording and later listen to this. But it seems like criminals nowadays even take a bit of a break and a holiday as well. So it's unfortunate that our country is so extremely crime-ridden. But those are the two big divides: the opportunistic possibility of crimes that could be committed by those who are very poor and in need, and seize the opportunity, can do it and can get away with it, and then the day-to-day criminal that is escalating because they have information, they know who are the haves, and they target them, they make informed decisions, and then they execute their crime.
Okay, Mike, I spoke with Chad Thomas yesterday. I'm sure you heard of him, you know him. He is the CEO of IRS Forensics, and he spoke to us about the arrest of the kidnapping kingpin, the Mozambique national. It happened over the past few days. You must be aware of this as well. Does this suggest then going forward, and you and I had many discussions over the past year about all of the kidnappings, or most of the kidnappings that we've seen here in South Africa, very particularly the Motti brothers. But in this instance, should we as South Africans kind of feel more relaxed that because the kingpin has been arrested, that is possibly the end of kidnappings in South Africa? Or are you still going to get a lot of copycat kidnappings and opportunistic guys, taking chances? Must we continue being on our guard?
Of course. And when they say they've arrested a kingpin, it just means it's a guy that's been on top of a group organizing kidnappings. But there are hundreds, if not, I won't say thousands, but there's definitely hundreds, if not more, kingpins everywhere, and probably thousands all over the world. So it does not mean if one person that coordinates a group, it's a coordinator, is taken into custody, and it also does not mean that the group in its totality and everybody else will be taken. Unfortunately, the law protects the criminal, and we many times hear of somebody that's been arrested, but then later on you hear is released, or he's never prosecuted and he never goes to jail. It's very seldom that you get information of hijackers and of kidnappers that are caught, properly prosecuted, and properly incarcerated. It's very seldom, and you can watch the news, and the news is open and everywhere to every time expose when something does that. So you can for yourself search and find whether there is so many that's been caught, captured, and incarcerated. It's not the case. So there are hundreds of kidnapping groups, and there's many levels of kidnapping, and this will definitely not deter any other kidnappings in South Africa. Also take in consideration that the top level kidnappings closely monitor what happens if one of their people or a group is under investigation, or a person or persons is arrested, and they will out of that learn from the experience, and they will chop and change their modus operandi. Also take in consideration that kidnapping on that level is extremely sophisticated, very well planned, and then executed, and very seldom leaves evidence behind. And sometimes it's just a stroke of luck that either there's a tip-off or something comes up and information is followed up by the authorities, and with great luck, a kingpin like this specific one is taken. But the chances of him, for instance, turning and exposing the whole group and the whole kidnapping industry in its totality and bringing them all down it's like 0.00001%. First of all, because he knows he can be killed at any moment. Don't underestimate the criminal's power to infiltrate the authorities and to corrupt the authorities, and secondly, to infiltrate in such a way to have this man killed. A person that has extreme information is very high on a hit list. There's two reasons for a hit going down. Always, it would be money, a money issue. Two, it would be an information issue. If you have information that is of extreme value to the criminals, they will want it or kill you for it. If you have extreme information and it could put the criminal element or group in a fearful situation or in concern, they will want it and kill you for it. So no, it's going to make maybe a dent, maybe us, everybody watching the news, maybe, the population that follows this and is interested and concerned would think, yes, thanks, good, it's wonderful. And we pray that it might make a dent, but it's not going to make a difference in stopping this kind of crime. If you want to stop this crime, kidnapping has to be addressed by the authorities in South Africa as well as all the other serious violent crime cases as a top priority. And there should be highly, highly specialized police units dealing with the 5 facets of dealing with serious violent crime, which is the identification of the crime, which means you know the crime off by heart, the evaluation of the crime, which means once you've identified the crime, you completely evaluate it, the investigation of the crime, which means specialized forces, and then the risk analysis of it, and then lastly, the crime prevention of it, in order with either with visual policing, preventing this, and incarcerating, capturing, because of the others that you have exercised on these criminals, having them much more arrested, much more incarcerated, much more prosecuted. That will bring the crime rate on kidnappings or serious violent crimes down. If that doesn't happen, it's not going to change.
Let's look at the other issue, and let's look at criminality within our communities, amongst friends and family. And that is rife as well, is it not? Because friends and family know all of your personal business. They know where and how vulnerable you are. They tend, and of course, those that have ill intentions towards you and have that criminal intent, in them, inbred in them, will then obviously gauge the situation, and they will take advantage of your vulnerability and then try and I guess do you in, rob you in whatever way and manner they can. And we know lots of this happens all of the time between friends, between family members. It ruins relationships for the rest of the life, for your lives. How does one address something like this, where there may or may not be documents to back you up, to say that, Mike, I've known you for the past 5 years, you knew all of my business, and this is how you have done me in. I gave you a loan, or I helped you with goods and supplies, etc., to try and set you up, in your own business. And now there is X amount of monies owed to me, promises made, never been fulfilled. How does one move forward with this to get back your money? And they duck and dive you all the time and plead poverty, and yet they live a very comfortable life.
Julie, this is an extreme subject, and it's also an extreme, in my opinion, tragedy. This happens every day, and it happens so much. It's very seldom that you can walk down the street and stop every person and ask him, listen, have you ever been done in by a friend? Have you ever been done in by a family member? or have you ever done in by a business partner? The possibility of everyone giving either a yes on one or all three is probably 90%. Unfortunately, it comes to the person that you are. If you are a believer, if you have got strict rules of engagement, and you got religion rules of engagements that you follow. I am Christian. I try my utmost best to be a Christian and live according to those principles. That can prevent me from doing that. And that's the first place where I would start in advice of people really looking them at themselves and, just do what is right. And secondly, first deal with what you know is factual and right, and do and practice that, and then later deal with issues that you don't know and is maybe not factual, that you have to either find out whether it's factual or not. If people just practice normal principles, they can prevent themselves from doing this. But unfortunately, the third thing that I need to mention, people are many, if not most times, moved by greed and selfishness, and being not only unprofessional, but unconcerned and do not care. A carelessness and a irresponsibility that takes hold of themselves. And then many a times they actually believe that in their moves or in their acts that they have taken against either a business partner or a family member is that they have been in their full right and they're going to stick with it. And they tend to eventually sear their own consciences and by believing that is what they're going to do and stick with it. It's unfortunately something that's never, ever going to stop. So my further point would be,
Mike, is there any recourse? Is there any recourse for people who are scammed in this way by a friend or a family member? Taking into account that we have the issue around prescription, if you haven't lodged, a complaint or within that 3-year period that they owe you the money, and go to a lawyer and try and get back your money, or a credit bureau, etc. What happens after that 3-year prescription? Question number one. And question number two is, if this has taken place 5 or 10 years ago, do you, as the person who's been scammed, have some sort of proof that this has in fact happened? Can you still blacklist the person? Is that a possibility?
I was getting to that. Thanks for interjecting and reminding me. But after the greed and the irresponsibility that I've explained, your recourse should be as quickly as possible. If you've waited years and years, you don't have any legal recourse. Only if it's a criminal matter. If there's a crime that's been committed amongst family and friends, business partners, etc., you can open it after 10 years. So it's no problem. But if it's a legal battle where you want to take somebody to court, you have to do it within the prescribed time. I think it is 3 years, and you have to do it soonest, because if something is serious to you, you don't wait 3 years or just before 3 years. If something is an issue, you don't wait till next week. So my first advice on the legal side as well as on the criminal side, if anything ever happens, your step one is you bring let's take a business partner or a family member or a close friend. If anybody has done you in any way, the first thing you do is communicate. You do a communication phase. Try and talk it out. Try and sort it out. The second thing you do is, if that doesn't work, you bring an elderly, a knowledgeable person, a bookkeeper, a banker, a special friend that has knowledge of this, a lawyer's friend, a friend in the police, and you then have a second meeting with another authority present, a knowledgeable person, and retry that communication. If then it doesn't work, you go the documentation route. We call it the administrative route. You send the necessary final warnings, requests, demands. Also, nice and professional. And if that doesn't work, then you must decide. If this is a criminal case, you open up a criminal case. You don't wait years or weeks. And if it's a legal case and you want to take the legal route, you appoint a lawyer. So that's my advice. It's very, very important to listen to what I've said here, because if you don't do this, you take the urgency and the seriousness out of the matter. Any judge, any authority will always ask you, but why have you waited so long? You do things immediately, and you don't let the sun set on your anger. If you're angry about something, if you're distraught about something, you deal with it, get it sorted, get it done and dusted, and get a resolve. But then I must say that many people, most people, when they've been scammed amongst friends or family members or business partners, most of them actually just leave it. And in Afrikaans, we call it, they say, well, ek het skoolgeld betaal, which means, I paid my dues. I'm never going to make that mistake again. But we're going to veer away from these people, never deal with them anymore. And that's where you previously said they are family members split apart, business partners go each the other way, and they badmouth each other everywhere, and they, for the rest of their lives, are enemies. Unfortunately, that is what happens most. And I'll tell you why. The people that we are talking of that has been done in, the family members, the business partner, friends, what, do not trust the authorities. Hold on. Apologize. They do not trust the legal system. They do not trust maybe the lawyers, and they are not prepared to go the long arm of the law route, because they know, because of what they've seen and heard, that the authorities can take a long time. They're maybe not willing and able, and don't have the infrastructure, and lawyers just take a lot of money, and eventually nothing happens. It's just a paper chase. So that's another subject, but just short and sweet on that. That is the reason why most people, I would say even 90%, don't pursue when there's been issues amongst, I'm talking about especially family and members and friends, to take it further. I would say the percentage it's a bit bigger when there's a business issue. There might be a 50-50 possibility of a business partner taking another business partner either through the authorities, the SAPS, or through the legal system.
Mike, you've given us a whole host of very, very valuable information, and you've also made us realize that be angry, act timeously, don't let water go under the bridge. But I still say that despite however many years have passed, I still believe that there is some form of recourse, but perhaps in a future program we can unpack that. Thank you indeed, as always, for your insights, and may this be a great year for you and your loved ones in every possible way. Stay safe.
Thank you, Julie, and thank you once again. And I pray for this country like you. I like your positiveness, your smile. You're always positive. And that's like we previously spoke. Let's pray that God gives us a better year, and let him be gracious upon us, merciful, and bless us with insight, might, power, wisdom, and discernment. And let's be careful with everything that we touch and do. And let's love each other and be concerned with each other. Thank you.
Absolutely. God be with you. God bless. Go well. It is exactly 8:55. News and views right here on Salam Media.